Welcome to another Founder Wisdom Pod. We have Tom Cronin with us. He's a speaker, corporate meditation trainer. He's a leadership coach and a facilitator. We're going to talk about mindfulness training today. You can go and check out more information about him at tomcronin.com. This podcast is presented to you by podpire.com. That's my podcasting company. If you want to start a podcast, if you want to scale a podcast, monetize a podcast, go to podpire.com. I can help you do that. Tom, welcome to the pod. Tell me a bit more about yourself and what you're up to nowadays.
Yeah, it's great to be here. Thanks for inviting me along today. I'm a coach predominantly for spiritual leaders around how to grow their businesses, yoga teachers, meditation teachers, breath workers. So it's a big part of what I do. I also do corporate trainings. I've been working with Amazon, Oracle, Qantas, Coca-Cola, helping their staff reduce stress. And then I also run retreats and teach meditation as well. So it's a bit of a mixed bag there.
So, what are some misconceptions about meditation amongst the CEO, founder, high performers crowd?
Well, if we look at the history of meditation, traditionally for about 5 to 7,000 years, it was traditionally used as a tool for finding enlightenment. Now we know that enlightenment, after all the research and the information we have on the planet right now, is a phenomenal experience. It's a full optimization of the human experience, but usually it's been referred to as a very spiritual experience where you have this sort of deep sort of spiritual connection to source or the infinite, the unbounded. But what we're finding now is meditation traverses from the east and the ashrams of the world into the corporations and organizations of the world. We're finding that meditation is a tool that can optimize brain functionality and physiology. And this is a really exciting time that we're in now, where we've got this wonderful junction point of sort of 7,000 years of history of being used for one spiritual experience, and now it's being used for, optimization of organizations. And we can only look at a quote and a tweet that was done by Ray Dalio, the world's largest hedge fund manager from Bridgewater Associates, who said that meditation was the key ingredient for whatever success he's had. And Oprah Winfrey from OWN TV, obviously a very successful businesswoman, said that it is only from that space can you create your best work and your best life. And she's talking about that meditation space. So, it's a really important time for us to dive into the power of meditation and how it can optimize our experience in life and also optimize our businesses.
So, I've been meditating for a decade now. When I started, I could get into deep meditation. It was weird. I would meditate with this LED RGB light, would change from red to blue to green, and somehow I could get into deep meditations back then. I was starting to be an entrepreneur, so I'm not sure about the correlation here, but throughout the years, I did 3 day silent retreat, 10 day silent retreat, didn't find much value into them. Couldn't get myself to very deep meditations, although I had my moments, but the ROI of my energy was very low. Um, Nowadays, I feel there's two sort of portals for me that can bring me in a state of a deeper state in which I can get interesting insights and get a very nice ROI of the energy invested in this very moment that is. So one is looking at the stars at night, just losing myself in there and sort of not silencing my thoughts, but observing. Sometimes I focus on one star and I can go like deep and just like forget about everything for 1 or 2 minutes. And the second thing, it's pretty obvious, is psychedelics. Like I can get into very deep states and on psychedelics, and they're immediate portals to what's out there in the different dimensions. And not sure if I can bring that much wisdom from there because sometimes it's complex to interpret, and I don't give myself a lot of time to interpret all of those messages. But what you have to say about all of these things, because I feel that sitting down, closing my eyes nowadays, although sometimes beneficial, is not my cup of tea.
Yeah, absolutely. Look, meditation is a mechanism. Excuse me. It's a device. It's not the end point. It's not the goal. It's just like an Uber. Now, you can get an Uber that turns up at your door to take you from one place to another place, and it can be a Ford Ranger, it could be a Hilux Ute, it could be, a Toyota Corolla. The vehicle isn't that important. It's just that can you get to the destination? And so many different meditations will, are used for different reasons, but ultimately as a mechanism to get us to a particular point of profound stillness of mind. Some of them are going to be harder than others. Some of them are going to be a bit more challenging than others. And the good thing about the diversification of meditation tools out there is that everyone will find their own way. Everyone will prefer different vehicles to get to destinations. And so I've suggested people do their own research and find one that works efficiently and effectively for you in that quietening of the mind. I use one that has a mantra, and the mantra plays an integral role. The mantra is a mechanism to inspire and lure the mind away from the external world of pleasure and activation and into the internal world of silence and stillness. So without the mantra, I find meditating can be quite challenging because the mind doesn't actually want to be still. The mind doesn't want to focus on one thing. So the mantra plays an integral role of being a very useful vehicle to take the mind inward into quietness.
In my silent retreats, I think some people wanted to stay there to sort of achieve like sainthood or nirvana. Um, and I guess there's value into this because my goal on this planet Earth is to add value to others, but I don't feel that this would be the path to me. Some people just want to achieve that for themselves, keep it to themselves, and that's fine because at least they're not a nuisance to this world like most humans are. Um, but yeah, at some point it was like, yeah, am I doing the best here, like meditating because the goal is to bring it back to this outside world. Did you ever had these conflicting thoughts of like meditating and going really deep vs bringing these insights back to the world? Because it seems that, at least in the Hidayah Yoga Center that I've been to in Mexico, that what they're teaching is just literally like forgetting about everything, forgetting about yourself, and that's it. It's not really to bring it back out there. Have you ever had these thoughts?
Such a good question, very poignant. There are definitely traditions and advanced states we can get into where the profound blissfulness that comes from the quietening of the mind, the withdrawing of the senses, we call it going into the absolute. I think Joe Dispenza calls it the void. In Buddhism, they call it the emptiness. And what they're talking about is emptiness of the ego, which is your desires, your fears, your phobias, your regrets, your shames, your guilts, all those things that we identify as us, but really it's the ego occupant thoughts and feelings. So when we get into the realm beyond all of that, we really do find quite a profound experience. And a lot of the traditions, unfortunately, a lot of people get bogged down in the constant seeking. And the problem with that is that as long as there's a seeker that's seeking some higher experience, you're always going to get in the way of actually what already is a higher experience. So a lot of this is about letting go. But I agree with you that sometimes we can get lost in that and we can almost not want to come back from that. And a big part of my role and my inclination and I guess compulsion in the world is to bring the wisdom, the knowledge to the masses and help them find an ability to integrate activity and non-activity, and not just to be recluse, but to actually take that wisdom, that knowledge, and apply it to creativity, apply it to being in the world and expressing that through your vessel, your portal of your mind and your body.
Reading some of your posts that you've written on your Instagram. One is about fear. I rarely feel the emotion of fear, but today I was telling you that I just added this guy to a group that we're gonna do an ultra, and there's another group I have which is climbing Everest. And when I think of Everest, the keyword that comes to mind is scary Everest, right? Um, why? The cold, the lack of oxygen, I mean, I probabilistically speaking, I could die, um, and I know I'm gonna do it. It's like it's on the bucket list, so there's no choice at this point. So, what would be the correct mental model here? Is it that statistics don't apply necessarily to me, that I can control that? Well, this is totally false. How should I think about that?
Mm, you have such good questions. So, firstly, we look at fear, and fear is predominantly a very primal state that we have within us, very primal, in that one thing that we're afraid of the most is dying, not existing, and we pride and we pleasure ourselves on our existence. And the one thing, if the house was burning down and we only have 1 second to collect something and we can only collect one thing, the thing that we're going to prioritize is our body, because we love being in existence in our body. Now, enlightenment is the release of fear. There's no more fear in enlightenment, and that's because you see that your existence isn't confined or contained to the construct of your physicality. Just as the wave isn't the full expression of the ocean, it's just a temporary expression of the ocean, but the ocean, whether there's a wave there or not, will continue on. And so there's two ways to look at fear. One is to transcend it and to be in an enlightened state and realize that you're actually the infinite being, you're the celestial body, you're not the physical form, and that, yes, the physical form might die of oxygen, it might not, might fall down a crevice, and the physical form might no longer continue on that journey, but you yourself as the soul, the spirit, the infinite, will not cease to exist. Now, that could take you many, many years to get to that particular point in time. And that might not happen before you go climbing Everest, which means that you're going to carry fear with you. And if you are carrying fear with you, it's going to help you be more cautious and more prepared and more careful. And that's not a problem. That's a good thing. So just using that fear, identifying that fear, what is driving fear? Fear is the value I have on existing. And that's not a problem. I do value existing. And as long as it's not distorted fear where, oh my gosh, I can't get out of my room because I've got an essay to do and I don't think I'm going to finish it, and I don't think I can face the world because I'm riddled with anxiety and panic attacks. That's irrational fear. Fear of losing your body down a crevice will make you more careful about going across that ridge with the rustic sort of aluminium ladder that you have to climb across.
It's funny that we talk about that because, like I said, usually I cannot identify my fear, like if I ask myself consciously. But while we're at the topic, the other day, I did my annual psilocybin retreat, and it seems to me that when I'm leaving my body, I have this fear to come back to it, come back, come back. It's this control. Often when I do DMT breathing, because I really think it does generate DMT, because you lose that sense of self as well at some point. Why do I have that? Is that like a primal mechanism, like to get rid of that fear of dying and letting go? Is it because I'm an entrepreneur that always have control over everything? Can I actually get rid of that?
Yeah, it's really just having a deep appreciation and awareness that you're still identifying your existence primarily as the physical form. And when we have fear that, oh, I don't want to go back to the physical body, it might be that you're concerned or deeply associating existence as the physical body. It's not. So when we start to go, okay, I'm actually a spiritual being that is using a physical body as a mechanism for me to pick up children, to eat ice cream, to make love, to smell a rose, to surf on a wave, to climb a mountain. The physical body is an apparatus that we use in this particular incarnation, in this particular dimension of planet Earth, because it's what we need, like a spacesuit. But when we start to really get a deeper awareness that I'm actually not that physical body, I actually have that physical body, and I'm going to keep it in really good shape, because the better shape I keep that physical body in, the better this vehicle is going to work for me. But really, I'm ultimately the spiritual essence that's actually expressing itself through the physical body. Then what happens is that we have a different relationship with the world and coming into this physical body.
So is that feeling coming from the amygdala? Sometimes I feel it in my gut a lot. There's a lot of brain cells in there. It's like that primal feeling. And do you use chakras in your practice? Do you believe in the science of chakras?
Yeah, absolutely. I do some chakra work, particularly the root chakra. It's the one that we probably ignore the most. We do heart-centered chakras and throat chakras and third eye chakras and crown chakras, but the one that, interestingly, a lot of spiritual people tend to disregard, which is probably the most important of all. Just like the foundation of a house is the most important of all, that you can't build a house unless you have a solid foundation, and the root chakra is the solid foundation for the rest of the chakras. But yeah, those energy points, particularly the gut, And that's a big one. The heart obviously is a big one, where we have a lot of fear and trepidation. The butterflies in the belly before we go on a roller coaster ride. Again, that's a very primal place where fear resides a lot.
So let's get to the deep questions now, as I'm reading some of your
We're not there yet.
Instagram.
I thought we're already deep.
Yeah, it hasn't started yet. Why are humans killing one another nowadays and potentially using spirituality and its branch religions as a weapon?
Mm, wow. There's two questions there. I think I'll get you to explain the second one because I haven't quite grasped it, probably because I was focusing on the first one. Um, why are humans killing other humans? Generally, if we look at all animal species, we tend to find that they will kill other animals predominantly only for one of two reasons. One is because it will sustain their survival. So a lion will kill an antelope because they need the meat to live. And that's been happening. Birds will eat a lizard, lizards will eat bugs, bugs will eat something. And this is something that's been happening for ever since animal and insect kingdom has been in existence. Um, and so that's the first reason why animals, and we're an animal, will kill people, sorry, kill other things, and that's to um, sustain survival. The second reason why an animal will kill another animal is because the other animal will threaten their survival. Okay, so if there's one lion trying to look after its pack, and then another lion from another pack comes wanting to have dominion over that pack, and that other lion starts to attack this lion that it has a responsibility to protect its pack, then it will go into attack mode, because we only have fight or flight responses in that sort of very basic primal existence. And we still have that primal DNA within us, fight or flight. However, unfortunately, a lot of the reasons why people might be killing other people, sometimes it could be because of survival instincts, where we have to defend ourselves, which we might be seeing possibly in places maybe like Ukraine. I don't know enough about what's going on in there, but we see something like Ukraine or Gaza or places like that. And we see a lot of conflict still happening in the world. And we generally see one person attacking another person, or one country attacking another country, because they want something that that person has for their survival. Now, unfortunately, it's gone beyond basic survival. I will die if I don't get that food, so I need that food. These days, it's coming into more satisfying deep desires to have more land, to have more oil, have more gold, have more money. And so unfortunately, our greed, our egoic desires for insatiable appetites for more is driving a lot of pain and suffering. Then we have a lot of stress happening in nervous systems, so people can be distorted through alcohol, through drugs, and be in abject fear and overwhelm and trauma that can cause them to do quite silly things, jealousy and rage and all that sort of stuff. There's so many layers to that question. It's so complex. There's not one simple answer, I think, but there's many reasons as to why people are killing other people.
Is
Can
it
you explain?
naive from my end to think that technology could instantly fix the problem? Having a neural link and having these humans all connect mentally with one another, understanding each other's emotions, and just coming to peace with all of that?
It's a good question whether technology can play a role in that. I think it can in some way, shape, or form. I think the biggest thing that we find with people that become enlightened is that they experience themselves as a unified field. And this is one of the things that's what we call in the Vedic tradition unity consciousness. Unity consciousness is that I have a consciousness that is unified with all things, and not just all things on this planet, but all things within the cosmos. And it realizes that I'm actually not the form, I'm the subtle essence that pervades and permeates all forms, which means that all forms are an extension of me. And therefore, if I'm going to hurt something else, I'm hurting an extension of me, which just doesn't make sense because I feel that extension of me. And so we find when people become enlightened, they become a lot more compassionate, kind, and caring to other, because they realize other is themselves. And so my goal and inspiration is to get more people enlightened. Now, if technology can fast track that through some way, I don't know enough about these things like Neuralink, but if it does have that capacity to create a unified field where all humans can fast track that state of enlightenment and experience an interconnectedness, then I think we'll probably end up having a more compassionate, kind, and caring society.
Yeah, I think if they've killed my cousin, I would connect with them, and I would know that also their cousins have died, and that we could unify in that pain.
Mm.
For example, A question for you regarding capitalism. So I pursue wealth quite a lot. I'm chasing something like a pit bull. I mean, it's not my, yeah, I think I'm quite aggressive when it comes to business. I'm pursuing something. So is that a good thing for society in the end? And is the act of chasing something good if I'm happy into that mindset?
I think it's something we really want to be careful of, because the question of, if I'm happy doing this pursuit, then is that good? Because we've had people in history, and I won't name some, but some are very obvious. Just look at World War II, that pursued a particular activity because they thought it would lead them to happiness. But that in the end, A, it didn't lead them to happiness because they ended up killing themselves, but B, they killed a lot of people along the way. And also, we can really question the motivations for someone's pursuit towards something, whether it's going to be a good pursuit for happiness. So I don't think it's really a matter of, is it okay for me to pursue this because I feel good doing it? I think it's a matter of, what's the end result of you pursuing that, and what's the implications of you pursuing that. And part of the problem we have on the planet is we have a lot of people pursuing happiness, and they're pursuing it through extraction, through commoditization, through acquisition and experience. And what we want to do is we want to teach people that the degree of fulfillment that they're looking for is actually within inside themselves. And I know it sounds cheesy, but ultimately that heightened level of bliss and love, which is what you get in your DMT experience, it's what we get in our psilocybin experience, and it's what we get in our deep meditation, is that we realize that what we were looking for isn't something we could ever find as an extraction model. It's nothing we can ever commoditize. We can never get enough from the outside world to give us the fulfillment that we're looking for in the acquisition of that. So we really have to go to the true source of that. And when we truly find deeply happy, fulfilled people, we find enlightened people. And that's because they've realized that what they were looking for was not outside, it's inside. And that's when we're going to see a very different world, because you find enlightened, fulfilled people really don't go in this huge, hungry pursuit to get more. It doesn't mean they can't express themselves. So what I would suggest is looking at, rather than I'm in the pursuit of money, I'm in the pursuit of creating something that is going to uplift and support the improvement of not just humans, but the planet itself. And as a byproduct of that, there's an exchange that's made where actually in return, maybe I'll make a financial windfall because I've made an improvement in the world. And this is what we call a game B model. So if anyone listening in wants to start doing some research, you can just type in game B wiki, WIKI, and you'll see a group of people. Daniel Schmachtenberger from my film is one of these brilliant minds creating a new movement towards creating business models where the sole purpose of that business is to uplift and support an improvement and enhancement on the planet. And as a result of that, they're in a win-win for-profit business, that there's an exchange being made. And when we start creating game B businesses, we're going to see that the world will change quite dramatically, that our motivation isn't actually to make money. Our motivation is to make a big impact in the world that that improves things. And as a result of that, there's an exchange being made where I make some money as well.
Because I think there's some sort of natural beauty and love in capitalism. Because if you spend money in someone else, they'll spend it into someone else, and we're all interconnected. I think it's sort of the glue of humanity. But yeah, I'm reading about oligarchs nowadays, and they make billions, then they donate to charities. Well, you're like, okay, PR stunts, because also I think the danger in doing that, and for going in the forgot the direct movement of it all. But it was Sam Bankman Fried's model, which is to try to make as much money as possible and then donate it. Was utilitarian something. I'll find out the word, but I think that is cute as well, because if you lose your heart up until that point, I mean, the heart is mostly in charge of donating that money afterwards. And the other question is, why not be impactful while building your wealth, which is like the social startup theory of things. So in your opinion, well, I think the first question is like, how can we calculate that impact, which is a very tough question. And then in your opinion, should people scale impact with wealth at the same time, or go with like the theory of maxing out cash and then donating to society?
I think there's so many different ways it can go, and it's hard to sort of come up with the right answer. I think we've been trying for a while to come up with the right economic model. I do think a for-profit business is one that enables sustainability. I have good friends that are in non-for-profit businesses, and it's very hard for them because they're constantly trying to get more funds. Whereas for-profit businesses, which aren't easy either, but I'm a for-profit business, but we have a percentage of every sale of our products, whether it's a speaking gig, a retreat, a weekend workshop, an online program. A percentage of each one of those sales goes into a platform called B1G1, which means buy one, give one. So we, going back to one of your questions there about, how do we quantify it? I'm not really, even though B1G1 does have measurable outcome, you can see on the bottom of my webpage, the sustainability goals that we've hit as a result of our work. We've only been doing this for about a year and a half, and we've started to have some really big impact in our world as a result of our work. So what we're looking for are win-win-win businesses, which means that my business creates products or programs that improve the world, just as Canva does. Canva is a great model for this. They create something that is improving people's lives. And then as a result of the offer that we create for the world, there's a financial exchange, which means I'm a for-profit business, which means that I make money and I can feed my family now. So my kids and my wife are happy. But also it means that because we're for-profit, we can take some of those profits every time there's a transaction, and we can distribute it to people that don't have the capacity to create a for-profit business. And so now we've got win for them, they're getting the results of our products, win for us, we're being able to feed ourselves, and win for them, they get something improving in their life. And if we start to see that happen on a collective level, we can distribute wealth very easily on the planet, and we can see people live very comfortably on the planet. The 7 billion people can live very comfortably if we see a better distribution of wealth. At the moment, unfortunately, we just don't have enough consciousness to do that at the higher level. And over time, as we see more people becoming more conscious, we'll see more businesses starting to distribute the wealth a little bit more evenly.
Yeah, I'd love to contribute to research in that aspect, to create some sort of engine to calculate that. And the movement, SBF and all these folks are part of, is effective altruism. I'm not shining darkness on that movement, because I think the intentions are good. But yeah, some people might lose themselves in the pursuit of wealth, and then giving out seems a foreign concept to them. Thank you for the value and the wisdom today, Tom. Where can people find out more about you?
Ideally, Instagram is a great place to come to reach out to me and send me a message. I respond to all my messages that come through Instagram. The second one is my website, which is, both of them are just Tom Cronin at Instagram, and then tomcronin.com on my website. And you can see all about our retreats and our mentoring programs.